Nikki Haley at a town hall event in the Live Free or Die state of New Hampshire faced a question from an audience member about the Civil War. Here's CNN playing it and then giving their commentary on it.
What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not being president. I want to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government. What do you want me to say about slavery?
No, you've answered my question. Thank you.
Next question.
Unfortunately, you can't see my cursor on the screen, but look at the far left of the frame above the woman with the brown hair, right above. Look at that guy hiding his face.
He's like, why did I sit in the front row?
Yeah, why did I sit in the front row? He's hiding his face literally the whole time. He does not take his hand off his face through the duration of this question. Look at it. It's like, oh. That is tough. That's a tough audience to be in. I'm telling you, man, top of my list of candidates to visit on the New Hampshire campaign trail when I'm there the weekend before Election Day. Nikki Haley, 100%. Like, I would just love to interview that guy. Hey, what was going through your mind as she was being challenged with this question? Look, in fairness to her, she's saying it's a Democrat plant. That was obviously somebody who was looking to embarrass her because that person knew that she was going to have a hard time answering it. And that person, whatever their intentions, were kind of proven right, were they not? I mean, she says this is about how the government works, right? Which is a way of saying, well, it was about states' rights, because that's how a lot of the diehard conservative base want to interpret it. So that's what she was trying to say there. She can't go as far as to say it was about states' rights, because then she'd have everybody on her. But that's clearly the direction she was steering her answer in.
Well, if you look at how desperately the media has been trying to make her happen, and how clearly the liberal class likes her and would find her acceptable, it just tells you how vapid and empty the politics of establishment Democrats are. What part of this woman is a psychotic ding-dong did you not get from her take on Israel? What part of that was not clear to you? Of course, she's the same person. And Ukraine. Of course, she's the same person who's going to go up there and try to duck the slavery issue and a question about the Civil War. Who did you think this person was?
Yeah. Now, I want to play this response because Greenwald actually tweeted out this clip of CNN responding to it. And I think he made a good point that because this is Nikki Haley, because this is like the establishment's Hail Mary against Trump, they are not quite giving her a pass on this, but they're being much easier on her than they would if Donald Trump said this. If Donald Trump said this, this would be all over. This would be viral, even way more viral than it went now. This would be like his interview with George Stephanopoulos about David Duke, right? Do you denounce David Duke? I don't know anything about David Duke. Whatever. Right, it would be that level hysteria if he said something like this. Instead, here's the CNN panel reacting.
Voter, as you could hear there, called her out for not mentioning slavery. What do you make of that answer?
Yeah, if I were her, that would have been pretty easy to just say that and move on. But it's also, I think, pretty clear that that voter was kind of trying to catch her and saying something that would potentially make her less appealing to those independent voters in New Hampshire that she's going to rely on so heavily. So this was an easy question to answer. I wish she had answered it using the easy word, say slavery. There's a disagreement in our country about it. But ultimately, I don't think it's actually going to hurt her standing one way or another with Republican primary voters at this point.
Yeah, so I mean, look, that's going easy on her. That's going way easier on her than they would go on Trump or a Trump-aligned candidate
DeSantis.
If they made that mistake. Or DeSantis, of course, because they like Nikki Haley. They like her. She's for all their wars. They like her. They want her, right? If it's Haley versus Biden, the media is probably going to give Haley preferential coverage to Joe Biden, right? They probably rather Haley than Biden.
How far are her politics from any Democratic candidate who would be running? How far is she from Hillary Clinton? I mean, she's not, Hillary Clinton obviously would not have answered that question that way because she has a different base, not because she really has different ethics.
Right, exactly. But she was clearly trying to duck that. And whether that was a plant or not, that should not be a trick question. I mean, what was the Civil War about? That's not a trick question. That's not a gotcha. That was the questioner's point in asking it. Asking an easy question, a layup question that functions as a gotcha in a lot of right-wing circles because they're afraid to cross that part of the base. And so that's what it exposes, pure and simple.
And let me correct myself, and you always remember this word for word. What did Hillary say about how the real Americans, the white Americans, were voting for her?
Hardworking Americans, white Americans support me. That was in her primary against Obama.
Exactly. So she wouldn't say this, but she came right up to the edge of it.
Right. Exactly. So here's Haley's follow-up because she had to do some damage control. So at another town hall, at an even smaller venue, apparently a library or used bookstore, here's Nikki Haley addressing the controversy from her past comments.
Asked about the Civil War and what I think of the Civil War, what was the cause of the Civil War. Of course, the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's unquestioned.
Who sighed in the audience? Who was like...
I was like, hang on, was that Keaton?
No, that was somebody.
Keaton wouldn't have done that.
No, that was somebody in the audience.
Wow. All right.
I mean, it's just like, you really are a glutton for punishment if you go to a Nikki Haley event.
We know that. That's unquestioned. Always the case. We know the Civil War was about slavery.
But
it was also more than that. It was about the freedoms of every individual. It was about the role of government. For 80 years, America had the decision and the moral question of whether slavery was a good thing and whether government, economically, culturally, any other reasons, had a role to play in that. By the grace of God, we did the right thing and slavery is no more. But the lessons of what that bigger issue with the Civil War are is that let's not forget what came out of that, which is government's role, individual liberties, freedom for every single person, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do and be anything you want to be without anyone or government getting in your way.
Okay, so you could see she's really walking a tightrope there because she has to admit it's about slavery because now people are on her ass for that.
Right.
But she says, but it's also about the role of government. Thank heavens, whatever she say. Thank goodness, by God's grace, we did the right thing and got rid of slavery. But questions remain about the role of government. So what she's kind of saying there is like, in that case, good that we got rid of slavery, but she is hinting very strongly there that the South had a legitimate states' rights claim. Right.
Right.
So, you talk about trying to thread a needle. That is about as tough a needle to thread as you possibly can. And you could see, because she was speaking at about 7 words a minute there, going very, very slowly, realizing the position she was in. Okay, I have to condemn slavery, but I also have to acknowledge for the base that, we did come out of that with certain lessons about the role of government, meaning maybe the government overreached to fight a war over slavery. It's good we did, but their questions remain about the role of the federal government. That's what she's doing there. That's what she's doing there. She's trying to thread an impossibly fine needle.
Yeah, it is true that the Civil War essentially settled the question of whether America was truly going to run as a confederation of independent states that come together simply around currency and foreign policy and go their own way otherwise. She is in the unfortunate position of having to cast that, no matter what the issue that triggered the armed conflict was, as of debatable positive outcome, while not saying that directly. So, yeah, I mean,
exactly.
she was doing quite a tap dance up there, trying not to piss off the states' rights people, who don't feel that outcome was desirable.
Yes, and she's saying this in a majority white, by far majority white, northern, very libertarian state of New Hampshire, where I will be the weekend before the primaries, and I very, very much hope, I'm sure I will, because she's going to make a big play for New Hampshire, so she's definitely going to be there. That is top priority, to go to a Nikki Haley rally / town hall.
Please clap.